Hello everybody and welcome to episode 4 of the Povey Pandemic Project. Please remember to subscribe to us on your favourite podcast channel on YouTube, like and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Today Sarah and I are going to look at the practical advice on how to survive the financial impact of COVID-19 and coping skills the emotional toil our current situation is creating. With many of us facing a more uncertain financial future due to job loss, wage reductions, loss of clients and loss of income, now is the time to make changes to reduce our outgoings to help us survive.
Lee, can you get us started by talking about some simple tips that we can use to reduce our monthly outgoings?
Sure, I've got a list here that I looked up and I kind of thought about, like, what can we do? So the big ones: refinance any big purchase. So that can be refinancing your mortgage, refinancing car loans, refinancing student debt. There's options out there for all of those at the moment, and money is cheaper than it's probably ever been. Interest rates are incredibly low right now. So great time to take opportunity of the cheaper money and refinance any of those big purchases. Next, if you've lost your job, obviously this is common sense, but apply for unemployment benefit. There's all kinds of small business loans as part of the CARES Act that's just been implemented by Congress. So check that out, look at the Small Business Association, there's plenty of advice there, and I'll put some notes in the show notes for you. Look at different careers or look at a different job for the moment. So delivery companies, grocery stores, they're all employing heavily at the moment to keep us going and to keep the food chain going and keep supplies going. So it doesn't mean that's going to be a full-time career for you, but you could certainly work in that right now if you've lost your current role or your current role is furloughed. What else? Getting rid of cable and TV subscriptions. Do you need all of your current subscriptions? Are you with Hulu, Netflix, Amazon? Do you need them all? The other thing to do is, if you find some shows that you like to watch, some series you like to watch, subscribe to that particular channel. When you've finished watching that show, you can unsubscribe from that channel, reduce your monthly outgoings, subscribe to one of the other channels that might have a new show you watch. You don't need to be subscribed to all of them all the time. I don't think any of these hold you to stay subscribed to them for long periods of time. It's always on a monthly basis, so you can pick and choose as something new comes out that you want to watch. The other thing we've done it here is called cord cutting. We've got rid of our cable TV subscription, saved us $100 a month. We've gone to an internet only subscription, and then we've reduced the amount of TV subscribers that we have monthly as well to keep our outgoings more sensible. Next thing, shop at cheaper stores. Do you need the highest value stuff right now? Can you be going to Costco and getting stuff in bulk as opposed to going to Whole Foods? Any way that you can reduce those food bills. So that means, for those of us that can still afford to eat takeout, please do support your small local businesses, your small restaurants, the ones you like, keep them going. For those of us that can't, now's the time to cut the takeout out of your weekly bill and do more cooking at home. We've got time, so you've got time to cook now. You can also meal prep, so that means producing lots of meals in one go and freezing them or stick them in the fridge, and then all you have to do is take them out, microwave them or heat them up in the oven quickly, and then you've got a meal ready to go. That's a good way of reducing quite a big part of your food costs. A big part of our food cost was eating out. Obviously we can't do that now, so that's reduced our monthly outgoings quite a lot. Another example would be checking through your credit card bills, your bank statements to make sure that you've cancelled all the old subscriptions that you don't currently use. So this could be old gym memberships, this could be magazine memberships you don't really read anymore, they just come and you throw them in the bin. This could be old TV services that you don't belong to anymore. There can be so many things that we're subscribed to that we don't realise we're subscribed to. So make sure you go through, you can do this on your phone as well, so there's lots of things that you might be subscribed to on Apple. So if you go into your profile on Apple, check that you've ended any subscriptions that you're not currently using.
What I do, just to interrupt you real quick, what I do is I have an app called Albert, and it goes through all of my different credit cards and debit cards and tells me about any reoccurring payments. So that can be really helpful in terms of figuring out what you're actually subscribed to, because it's a lot to kind of go through all of your bills.
That's really helpful.
So,
I'd heard of those, and I was meant to look one of those up for the show, and I actually forgot. So that's really helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Then another big one is transferring your debt. So this will be a credit card debt, and you can transfer your credit card debt to a zero balance card. There's companies at the moment offering 18 to 21 months of zero interest. So you transfer your credit card debt. If you can't pay it off right now, at least you're not accruing interest on that debt, and you can pay it off over a much longer period. The debt on credit card is huge, the APR is very high, so the monthly fee you're paying on that debt is really big. So if you can transfer that over the course of a year or two, it's going to make a big difference to how much you actually have to pay on that debt. So that's a good one. Another one is car leasing companies. Car loan companies are offering some deferred payments. So that means that you won't be paying for the next 2 or 3 months while you might be furloughed. But then when you go back to work, you restart it, and then you'll have another 2 or 3 months maybe on the end of your payment or something. Each of those is individual. Reach out to them and see what they're doing. Let me just check what else I had on my list. So another thing is insurance. So if you're not using your car as much, you can adjust your insurance, so you can reduce your annual mileage, will reduce your fee. I've just done that for mine. Another one is to change it from commuting to pleasure. So if you're not commuting to work at the moment, you reduce it to pleasure instead of commuting. That will reduce your monthly fee. And lastly, shop around. If you have time now's a great time. Shop around, see who's doing deals on insurance. Bundle your home insurance, your condo insurance with your car insurance, and that will reduce your costs as well. So use this time wisely. Instead of just staying with the company you've been for 10 years because they were the company that you've been with, you can now use that time to look around and find something a bit better.
And we actually just found a defensive driving course that actually reduces your monthly premiums. So look into the insurance company that you have and any sort of discounts they're offering right now.
And that's state to state, and there's age limits on states to state. So clearly Sarah hasn't taken the defensive driving course yet because it's for 50 plus. So, but it does depend on what state you're in, so that's another good idea in it. And I think that takes 5% off your premium, so I have to wait another 3 years and then I get old people discounts. So Sarah, tell us some of the emotional issues that you're seeing that you would expect in a time of stress and crisis like this, and also different ways that we can help people cope with those stresses.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to remember is that this is a time of crisis and a time of stress. We are in a crisis. So some common issues that are coming up are, number one, grief, especially if it's related to a job loss. You've lost your community, you're not going to work anymore. Some people have spent 15 years at a job and they're furloughed or they've been laid off. So expect that there might be some grief coming up around that, and that's okay and it's normal and completely understandable that you would grieve that. Your sense of worth, if you've previously tied your value and your standing in the world on your financial income, you might notice some issues coming up around being worthy and feeling valued and deserving of happiness. So notice if that's coming up for you too.
That's particularly, I think, relevant for men as well, with role changes, with the partner male might be earning more money than they were and feeling emasculated by that. Don't. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine anyway, but it's especially fine in this situation. So yeah.
If you found your worth as a breadwinner in the family, and if your financial standing has been your contribution to your family, then expect that this might bring up a lot for you. This might be hitting on some childhood trauma with scarcity. If you grew up poor, this might be triggering some of that old fear, that old anxiety. So just noticing if that's coming up too. Obviously, there's a lot of fear and insecurity, not having a job, not being able to pay the bills, not being able to survive on what you're making. So fear and anxiety are coming up a lot right now for a lot of people. And then your relationship with money is going to be illuminated during these times. So if you overspend or you shop compulsively when you're feeling stressed, you might notice your Amazon cart filling up pretty quickly, or you might notice that you're being more spontaneous and reckless with your money, buying things that you don't need, or you might swing the other way and be pinching pennies and saving everything and hoarding. And that's not just with money, but with material things, with groceries, with toilet paper. We're noticing that scarcity complex kind of rear its head collectively right now.
You don't need all that toilet paper, people. You really do not need all that toilet paper.
Coming from you.
You don't need all that toilet paper.
Note to self, yeah. So now that we know that these are some common issues that are coming up for people around finance, I wanted to give some helpful skills and tips that you can use to navigate these emotional issues. So
sorry, just there, I had one thing that I wanted to add earlier.
Sure.
When it comes to the shopping online and buying stuff online, the first thing I did when this happened was I unsubscribed myself from all of my favourite online vendors because Adidas sneakers, those who know me, I have more than one pair of Adidas sneakers, and Adidas have, across their entire range, they're offering a 30% discount right now, which is very unusual for them, and I'm seeing that with snowboard companies that I might buy stuff from, etc., etc. So these offers feel very tempting. They are very tempting. They're designed to be tempting, to hook you in. So I've just unsubscribed from all of them, so therefore I don't see them. I hide all the ads I can on any of the social media I'm on, and just remove as much of the temptation as possible, because it's designed to trigger you when you're feeling at your weakest. As Sarah said, you're going to get that buzz of excitement from clicking on these things and putting these things in your shopping cart. Even if you don't buy them, and you probably will buy them if you put them into your shopping cart, just unsubscribe, and immediately there's less emails for you to deal with, number one, and number two, that temptation is taken away.
Great advice. Yeah. Okay, so going back to grieving the loss.
Can we talk about it? Help me explain the stages of grieving so that I I understand them and our listeners understand them.
Yeah, so Elizabeth Kubler-Ross has a grief model with 5 stages. There's a lot of different models around grief, but this tends to be the most generalizable, something that we can all kind of see ourselves in when we are grieving. So number 1, denial. It's not a problem, it's not an issue, I'll deal with this later, just kind of putting it off, pretending like it doesn't exist. Anger.
And we've seen so much of that in our media. The first reaction from many media pundits was, this is not going to, from our government leadership, this was not going to be a big problem, this is going to go away quickly. That is classic denial. That's stage 1 of shock and grief.
Yeah, and you can understand why that's a strategy for dealing with these things, because it's scary and it's easy to deny it to help ourselves. Anger is another thing, another stage of grief. So denial, anger, being frustrated, getting angry. You may notice that you're more short-fused or easily frustrated. Lee? Yeah, you might notice that you're more on edge. The next one is bargaining, just really wishing things were different, saying that if I stay home for 2 weeks, then I'll be able to go out soon. Or can you think of another example of bargaining?
Yeah, you just, as you say, you're wishing things weren't different, so you make these bargains in your mind, I'll stay home for 2 weeks and then I'll be able to go out and I'll do all the things I was able to do, and we can't, and we know that we can't, but you make those emotional bargains to try to get yourself through it, and it's another coping skill.
Yeah, or I'll stay in during the week, and then I'll see some of my pals at the weekend for an afternoon walk or something. The next stage of grief is depression, where we might notice all of the feelings come up or none of the feelings come up. We might notice ourselves feeling really numb and flat and unmotivated and just wanting to stay in bed. We might notice sleeping more or sleeping less, eating more, sleeping or eating less. The duality between those two. And then we come to a stage of acceptance where we kind of accept that this is our new normal, that this is the way that it's going to be for a while, and we kind of have strategies and skills to deal with this time where we're in it and we know.
And once you've gone through a stage, is that stage done, or?
No. Most of us don't have a linear healing, grieving process. We jump from stage to stage depending on the day. I can go from anger to acceptance pretty quickly, vacillating between the two, and we tend to jump around. Does that help you understand?
It does, yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. So grief is a very natural, very normal thing to be coming up for you right now. Know that it's okay to feel, and that's the paradox of emotion, that we have to feel it, to heal it. We have to feel, deal, and heal. So allowing those feelings to be here, giving it space, taking, I find it helpful to put a time limit on the really intense kind of just staying in bed and binge watching. Just give yourself a set time to wallow, to let yourself feel all the feelings.
I did that, and I do that with my athletes often as well. So I remember losing a race that I was particularly upset about, and I gave myself a day to be as angry as I wanted to be. Like, I was upset, I was annoyed, I was disappointed in myself, I didn't feel like I'd ridden particularly well in that race. So I said, right, you get a day to be as pissed off as you want for a day. But, once the day's over, now we're moving forwards, and now we're going to see how we can fix the issues that caused that bad performance in the first place. Now it was right, move forwards, time and plan. But I think it's very important, as Sarah said, to have the feelings. Maybe we can challenge our listeners to identify the feelings that they're going through. If you get into a petty argument with your partner, could that possibly be because you're sad or you're angry? If you're feeling unmotivated to do the task list of things that you've written out for yourself that day, you could be feeling sad, depressed. That's okay. Yeah. And I think if you identify it, it becomes easier to accept it. So feel it, identify it, accept it.
Yeah, and I feel like it's important to mention too the lack of feeling. If you're noticing that you're not feeling anything at all and you're totally okay, that could be a trauma response as well. You don't have to be having these huge emotions to be affected by this. And for those of you that have dealt with trauma or grown up in a chaotic household, you might notice yourself feeling extra calm, extra comfortable. So just holding space for that too, and knowing that it's all okay, it's all here, and it's good to have a timeline on grief. But if it spills over, if it goes on for a longer period of time, maybe getting some support if you find yourself drinking more or really not being able to pull yourself out of that hole. Getting some support, whether that's from your community or from a psychiatrist or a therapist. Just know that it's all okay.
And don't forget, guys, I run a men's group. The men's group's first one is starting this week. We'll be adding extra days, so reach out to me if you want that kind of support. That's exactly what the men's group is for. You can reach out to Sarah. Sarah is available to talk to people, so reach out to Sarah. Get us at thepoveypandemic@gmail.com. So that's thepoveypandemic@gmail.com. Okay, so any other tips or advice you got for people kind of right now, especially around finance?
Yes.
What can we do around money?
Yes. So going back to that sense of self-worth dwindling with financial insecurity, reminding yourself that your worth is not tied to your paycheck, and reminding yourself that productivity and revenue might look different right now. When we're feeling a lot of anxiety and a lot of fear and panic, it can enclose us in this cage, and it can feel like it's going to be like this forever. And reminding ourselves and reminding our nervous system that it's temporary. We don't have an end date, so it's a little more scary than usual, but we know that there's going to be hopefully an end point to this at some point, and that it's not going to be this scary and this panicky forever.
This too will pass.
Yeah.
And just to back Sarah up there, I've gone from working 7 days a week and being very, very busy to finding ways to be busier, so offering new opportunities to my clients, working in different ways. I'm still coaching. You're looking to be coached, reach out to me. Still very interested in dealing with people. But I've had to change the way that I work. And one of the things is I do have more time each day than I had before. So now I'm the person that fills and empties the dishwasher every single day. Which my wife appreciates very much. And I just filled the washing machine twice this morning. And you know, get stuck in. You got more time. Get stuck into those household chores. We had a cleaner. We now don't have a cleaner. So we're gonna have to figure out like who's going to share what options of that. And I have more time at home, so that's gonna be me.
And if you forget that, we can just play this episode over and remind you.
I'm pretty certain I'm going to edit this bit out.
Another practical tip that I have is to let this period of time illuminate your relationship with your money. So really unpacking some limiting beliefs that you may have inherited from your family, maybe even stress. If your family was stressed about money growing up, some of those old feelings might be coming up around money. Notice if spending is a way that you're self-soothing. I know we talked about the online shopping, but notice if that's a process for you and let that be illuminated through this
I think I like buying things online. I get excitement of, has Amazon turned up with my package yet? There's definitely a dopamine hit and excitement hit from that.
Yeah, and I know that me and a lot of our friends are organizing their homes and decluttering their spaces and then wanting to buy things to kind of fill this new space and redecorate. So just notice all of that, and as it comes up, just allow it to be here and acknowledge it. Historically, finances have been a taboo subject to talk about with our friends. We don't want to tell them how much money we make. But this is a time where we are all in the trenches. Pretty much everyone's going through a shift financially or with their jobs. So we can talk about these things without shame and taboo and stigma. So talk to your communities about money. If you're going through something, share it with a friend, join a men's group, find those collective gathering spaces where you can talk about what's going on for you. Know that you're not alone in this process, and there are people trained to help you navigate these weird times. So talk to a therapist, join a men's group. I'm offering several sliding scale spots in my practice. You can find me, my therapy business, at Illuminate the Shadow on Instagram, and together on Povey Pandemic Project on Instagram. I'll put the contact details in the show notes so that you can access those pretty easily. Financial insecurity is stressful. It affects every area of our life. So I just wanted to end by sharing some things that we can do for our mental and physical health. So making sure that you're eating enough, whole foods, vegetables, you're feeding yourself, nourishing yourself with good food. I know right now a lot of us are binging, but just having some grace with ourselves right now, trying to stave off those shame thoughts. Making sure that we're sleeping, so having a sleep routine around with sleep hygiene, so turning your phones off, having a set time that you go to bed every night, making sure there's a routine around sleeping and eating. Those can be our anchors.
That's a really big one. That's obviously something we use a lot in sport. With our changing schedules now, or more the lack of structure that a lot of people have now, it becomes very easy to start sliding into going to bed later and later and later. Most of us will wake up at a fairly similar time. So if you go to bed later, you just get less sleep. So be firm with yourselves in a kind manner to make sure that you're getting to bed at a pretty similar time, so that when you wake up, you've actually had that sleep that you need. As Sarah said, definitely when this started, I noticed I was craving sugar even more than normal, and I crave sugar a lot as it is. So, I was kind of eating treat food again to get that little hit, that little bit of excitement. We've been pretty good at now kind of cutting back into our normal eating routine. And that's just going through those stages again. You're going through certain stages, you're going to have different appetites because of the stages of grief that you're going through, the loss that you feel that you're experiencing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So taking care of your physical health as well as your mental health. So doing yoga, breath work, I have a really good breath work meditation that I recommend. I'll put that in the show notes. It's by Wim Hof. Meditating, going to therapy, having those support systems, that's how we support ourselves and our emotional and physical health. So
Thank you for joining us this week, everybody. We've really enjoyed sharing with you about some financial coping skills, some ways to reduce your outgoings. Thank you very much, Sarah, for really sharing some great advice there on the emotional struggles that people will be going through and how we can help them deal with that. Reach out to us, any questions, any comments. We love your engagement, we love your feedback. Please share these posts with your friends, anybody that might be helped by them. And when we post these posts, please make sure to comment and let us know your questions, let us know anything you want to see in future shows. Thanks, everybody.
thanks.
Bye.